This is just a video on a game I played today on ICC. Last night, in a discussion with a chess friend, we were discussing a line in the Caro-Kann. John had talked about after knight c6 playing bishop g5, and I had played that in a couple of blitz games that I've played in the past, even some standard time controls. I haven't played bishop g5 in quite some time, and I don't really study openings. A lot of the times the way I learn different openings is discussions with friends. They'll mention a line, I'll think, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll go back and I'll look at it at a later time, maybe bring up a database, just kind of look at some of the moves, and I'll show you the line that we were discussing. I had a line in the Caro-Kann at the chess club the night before, and I won that game. It was a decent game against a 1500 rated player. I have a video about that already. After this move here, black plays knight f6, knight c3, and this knight c6. Most of the time you see this e6 push. I play that a little differently. It's not about that. But the line we had discussed was bishop g5. In the game at the club, I had played this knight to f3, and then the bishop came down and pinned. Uh, so after the discussion, the discussion we had was about this line here, sacrificing this pawn on d4. And after this flurry of trades, I think this is a nice position for black, or for white, sorry. He has some pressure on f7, and he's got this open file. I think this is just fine for white to play, and I've played this line before. Even, I mean, white can also play this line here with this attack, but after bishop e5, because this bishop is under attack, bishop e3 like this, I mean, he's going to castle, and e6 is going to be played. And I think this is fine for black. He has a little bit better development than in the previous line. Can also play this knight b5, and black is fine here. I think it's a little miscombobulated, but I think he's fine in this line. But as I said, when I'm discussing a opening with a friend, and a friend will mention an idea, and I'll pull up my database and I'll look at it, and I don't really study openings. So when I pulled up the database, I seen that this d5 is actually considered the main line, and I've never played this. To my knowledge, maybe in a blitz game I've played it, but I thought it was really interesting. So I kind of looked at how the line plays, and if I remember correctly, it goes. It's not there. Let me see. Trying to remember which way this goes. This knight moves. Yes, I remember. It goes this way. Yes, here we go. The knight goes to e5, and then the queen goes to d4, and we have this check. Takes. Now, white doesn't capture this right away. He doesn't have to. It's not going anywhere. Just castles. And then I believe e6. That's the main. Yes, I believe that is the main line. Knight 3, p7. This comes over. Castle, and then we capture here. This is where I had looked at the lines, and I just glanced at it. This, and from here, the database only goes a couple of moves from here. The main move that it has after this is this queen move, and my database ends there. So I didn't dwell on it. I figured I'm not going to dwell on it. The other move it had was this knight takes d5, and again, I didn't dwell on it. I just looked at it and thought, well, that just seems asinine. He gives up the queen. That was the extent of my opening preparation, just kind of glancing at things and thought, well, the next time I get a game, I'm going to give that a try. And sure enough, the very next day, I logged on to ICC to play my 45-45 standard game, and I played this game here. Now, when I started playing this individual, he was rated 2117, but it was a provisional rating. I didn't look to see. I just assumed I was playing a 2117. My rating was around 2020. Might have been 2002. I just remember some twos. And here is the game the way it started. And I thought, okay, I just looked at this line last night. I'm going to play into it and see how it goes. And here we go. See, I might have had that backwards when I was mentioning it earlier. This knight might have come up first in the database. I don't remember. I don't dwell on it. And again, when we got to this position, I was, as my opponent was thinking, you can see we're both gaining time here in the 45-45. We're both playing off of our preparation. He's only taking a little bit. I'm just busting the moves out because I just looked at this line last night. When we arrived at this position, I had to begin to look, and well, I felt his best move was Queen E2, and I began to think, well, what can I do here? This is how I study openings. I started looking at the playoff, knight f6, knight takes f6, pawn takes f6, queen takes f6, bishop takes f6. You know, just looking at different things like that, coming up with different ideas. And as I sat here looking at it, I thought, wow, this just looks great for white. This position just looks overwhelmingly good. I wasn't ready for him to take on d5. I just thought that was asinine, and I thought, well, why would anybody want to take on d5? And as I sat there staring at it, I realized that after all the flurry of trades, white is giving up a lot of wood for that queen. Pretty much forced to go into the line. When we arrived here and looking at the pieces, I've given up a lot. I've only really got 3 pieces to play this game with versus his 4 pieces. The pawns are pretty much even, so yes, I'm winning in material, but I'm down a little bit in my opinion. But sure enough, if you turn the computer on, it's not going to evaluate. It's probably lagging here. It'll say I'm winning here if it eventually comes up. See if we can back it up a little. Yeah, it's not going to catch up. So I began to figure out how do I want to play this. Well, I want to take away this f5 square, so I played this g4 to take away the f5 square. And I began to worry about his possible initiative. I felt here that his best move was probably this bishop move. And then that would free a rook to come over, or he could possibly come over here and checkmate. Suddenly my king is looking open on c6, or on c1. I just felt that this was pretty much pointless attack on my queen. If I turn the engine on here, still not working. The engine didn't like my queen f4 when I looked at it later. It said I should have played queen e4, but I had my reasons for playing queen f4. I was kind of looking at this square here, possibly pressure on f7. And now I had to evaluate whether I wanted to go into a lot of trades. And originally I had thought I could play this, but after this, I have a little bit of a problem here. So I started to reject that idea and determined I didn't really want to trade my rook. But then I hit on the idea of f7 square. That's why I played my queen to f4 in the first place. Here, I think his best is probably the bishop move, and I think I have a good position. This is just completely losing. Just the engine. Yep, there it goes. I'm just dominating this position now after, and this is just, I'm just winning. This is just a glaring weakness. I felt here that his best was, is it f5? No, it might have been this move. No, I have this checkmate here. No, what move did I? Maybe it was the. Yes, maybe it was this, but I still get this check. Let's see what the silicone beast thinks of it. Yeah, it says f5, but I'm just winning even with f5. And here I calculated out a line I thought for sure was just an instant victory, but I missed a move that he had. I missed this bishop move. I was looking at something like this. Even a couple other variations on this move. But at the time I didn't see this, so I had to calculate. I thought, well, there's got to be some way I can really destroy this. And I think I misplayed it a little bit. What does the beast say? Yeah, it says queen d5. Queen d5. Oh, yeah, pinning this here, yeah. I kind of thought I misplayed that a little bit. We'd have a discover check. I missed that. But I went into something a little differently. I figured, I'm just winning. Yeah, I felt he had to play this knight back here, but I think he's, it's pretty much an easy win here. Uh, Now I can just put this pawn up and threaten mate. And he's got to play the rook over. And here, see if I got anything better. Now G7. G7's about the best. I'm going to leave the engine on here for a minute. I think I might have missed something along the way here. This runs awfully slow. It gets stuck sometimes. Queen E6. Oh yeah, it just wants. And I looked at just winning the rook flat out, but I was trying to find something tricky, something flashy, and it would look kind of cool. Now it's starting to spit out G8. G8 knight. If that rook wasn't there, I'd have a nice, beautiful promote to knight mate. But yeah, it's just over from here. And at this point, I was confused that 2100 was continuing to play this game and thought, well, there's got to be some reason that he's rated 2100. So when I looked, he'd only had a couple of games played, so his rating was provisional 2100. So that would kind of explain why he just kept playing it here. It's really insulting to keep playing it. And if I wanted to, I could have tried to promote all these pawns to queens and get, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 queens on the board, which I've done just because an opponent is being annoying. But I figured I would just put him out of his misery and end the game. And that's it. That was a game I played with a line I had looked at the night before, and I felt like I got a nice game out of it. I would definitely play into that line again.